Good evening and welcome to News Review. The Foreign Office this week summoned the Spanish ambassador to the UK to underline serious concern at the activity of a Spanish Navy vessel in international waters off Gibraltar on Wednesday. Two commercial vessels were heading to the port of Gibraltar when the Tagomago contacted them by radio, attempting to get them to change their route. The Minister for Europe described it as a cynical attempt to disrupt Gibraltar's economy. This is the fifth time the Spanish ambassador has been publicly summoned in relation to Gibraltar since the current Spanish government took office in December 2011. To underline the continuing tensions with Spain, on Thursday evening, the Prime Minister, David Cameron, also raised Gibraltar with his Spanish counterpart, Mariano Rajoy, in margins of the EU Council meeting. Mr. Cameron reportedly made it clear to Mr. Rajoy that there must not be a repeat of last summer's frontier disruptions. Meanwhile, the government welcomed the summoning of the Spanish ambassador and also that Mr. Cameron had raised Gibraltar with the Spanish Prime Minister. Number 6 said the reality is that the actions of the Spanish Navy are totally illegal and designed to damage the economy of Gibraltar. It says the disruption at the border that Gibraltar continues to endure is similarly intended to cause a negative economic impact. The acting Chief Minister, Dr. Joseph Garcia, highlighted that the further summoning of the ambassador should be a source of acute embarrassment to Spain, given that they have had their ambassador summoned 3 times more often than the ambassador of Iran, twice the number of times as the North Korean ambassador, and as many times as that of Syria. The Chief Minister this week was in the Cayman Islands meeting with the UK Overseas Territories leaders. They've been discussing the agenda for the next meeting of the Joint Ministerial Council, which will be held in London in December. Economic diversification, good governance and environmental sustainability were just some of the topics that were discussed at the pre-meeting. Our news editor Stephen Nish spoke to Fabian Picardo via Skype.
Well, we spent about 18 hours meeting yesterday looking at what is going to be on the agenda, a very intensive session, looking not just at what are the items that should be on the agenda, but also where we want to take the agenda items thereafter. Today, the people who communicate with the Foreign Office, who we call Sherpas, are in contact already with London to identify with them where we think the meetings should be going in December. And the benefit to the United Kingdom and to the territories, of course, is that as a result, the meetings that we have in the Joint Ministerial Council itself in December are better geared towards the issues that matter to the leaders of the territories and to the United Kingdom, the issues on which we can really work together, the issues on which we can deliver for the people of each of the territories.
And is there generally broad agreement on the agenda items, or is there an element perhaps of having to persuade and cajole the other heads of government to include an item that is of particular interest to them?
Not at all. I think the relationship now between the heads of government of each of the overseas territories is very strong. You know, I've been working on making it strong since I was elected. Gibraltar went back into the overseas territories work, which the previous administration had abandoned. I was very keen in particular to organize a pre-JMC meeting last year, as you know, the first of these meetings, bringing the heads of government of the territories together without the United Kingdom, happened in Gibraltar last year around National Day. This is the second such meeting, and it is very hard work. This is not travel for pleasure, as some in the opposition might suggest. This is travel to advance the interests of Gibraltar and to advance the interests of all peoples of the overseas territories together in a way that enables us to advance our common and individual causes.
Also this week, William Hague stepped down as Foreign Secretary and was replaced by former Defence Secretary Philip Hammond. The move formed part of a broad reshuffle of UK government posts as David Cameron looks to bring in fresh faces and more women into his top team ahead of next year's general election.
William Hague has left the Foreign Office and will step down as an MP at the next election after a cabinet career that has spanned 20 years. In March, while overseeing the UK government's relations with the international community, Mr Hague described bilateral relations with Spain as difficult. He's been advocating ad hoc talks to allow issues between Gibraltar and Spain to be resolved, but has now left the Foreign Office without seeing any such dialogue materialise.
We confirmed the position we took in April last year to propose ad hoc dialogue with Spain. But my honourable friend is right. Gibraltar is British and wants to stay British, and for us that is the end of the matter. And we will never negotiate over sovereignty over the people of Gibraltar's heads as the last Labour government did.
Mr Hague's departure from the Foreign Office has triggered the first big changes at the top of the cabinet since Mr Cameron became Prime Minister in 2010. Former Defence Secretary Philip Hammond is the new Foreign Secretary. He's no stranger to tensions with Spain.
Well, we will do whatever is necessary to respond to the situation. As you know, we've already increased the number of crews available to the Gibraltar Squadron. We've made sure that Royal Navy ships passing through the Straits of Gibraltar routinely are calling in and spending some time in British Gibraltar territorial waters. In fact, we will continue to do whatever is necessary to defend our sovereignty in British Gibraltar territorial waters.
Interestingly for Gibraltar, the new Foreign Secretary is also Eurosceptic. He said he favours leaving the EU unless it agrees to renegotiate Britain's membership. No doubt the EU will be on the agenda when Mr Hammond meets the Gibraltar government for the first time in his new role.
Reacting to the cabinet reshuffle, the Chief Minister said Mr Hague had been a strong supporter of Gibraltar and ensured the UK stood by Gibraltar in the face of Spanish aggression. Mr Picardo said Philip Hammond had a very positive approach to the ROC's continued military significance and will undoubtedly be a friend of Gibraltar. An application for planning permission was made to the Development and Planning Commission in relation to the Midtown development at the Naval Ground. The project will include luxury office and residential spaces, as well as a recreational park and public parking.
The £100 million Midtown development project was launched and expected to start in 2007. However, 7 years on, and this sales office is still the only visible sign of development here at the Naval Ground. Commercial Development Investments Limited is applying to the Development and Planning Commission for permission to remove all existing buildings to the Naval Ground, as well as the construction of a car park and coach park and a mixed-use scheme comprising of apartments, office and retail space with associated parking and ancillary facilities with access via Reclamation Road. The plans have been changed significantly since the project was first launched. Midtown will consist of 5 buildings that will vary in height in order to soften the profile of the development, and the highest block will stand at no more than 52 meters high. The development will offer a combination of office suites and luxury apartments. The developers are also aiming to deliver energy-saving services, sophisticated technology and a nearby recreational park. Separately, a car park and a coach park that will be able to hold 40 coaches, 1,000 cars and 44 minibuses will be attached to an inner courtyard. The DPC's next meeting is scheduled for next week. However, the Midtown development won't be on their agenda until at least August.
And we'll be back with more of this week's news after the break.
Rock Royale presents the World Stage Concert Sunset Festival, Saturday 26th of July at Victoria Stadium. Chambao, Andy Luca, Los Rebujitos, Radio Macandé, Miguel Saiz and Mario Mendes, plus local acts, Jetstream, This Side Up and Holly April. Buy your tickets now at Anglo-Hispano Main Street.
Welcome back. There were 3 blackouts in 8 days affecting all of Gibraltar. The most recent on Friday was due to a construction company cutting through major distribution cables. On Monday, the Gibraltar government warned damaged equipment at the Waterport power station could make the whole grid trip at any time if there's a surge in demand. The government also said tackling the electricity problem was its top priority. A set of new rules governing the use of Commonwealth Park have now come into effect. The list, published in the Gibraltar Gazette, aims to clarify and reinforce the rules letting people know how to behave in the park.
The newly published Commonwealth Park rules cover a range of areas, from prohibited activities to the use of pathways and trails. Mostly, they let people know what they're not allowed to do in the park. The use of sunshades, tents, fireworks, boats and remote control devices is prohibited, with bathing and wading also banned. Unless it's expressly allowed by a permit, the sale of goods and services is also prohibited. The rules also protect the park itself, forbidding people from harming the vegetation and wildlife. Although you're allowed to ride your bike or walk your dog down the central pathway through the park, they're not allowed anywhere else. Above all, park users are encouraged to behave considerately towards others.
These are rules that any park has. It'll cover things like no swimming in the pond, no setting off of fireworks, that sort of thing, really to give a legislative backup to the way somebody behaves in this area. It's not going to curtail activity, people carry on being able to enjoy it, but if somebody wants to drive a lorry through the green, then obviously that's not going to be possible. So it just puts in law the standard rules of parks anywhere.
The rules state that the park will be open 24 hours a day. Good news for the many who visited it over the past weeks. But with hundreds of people walking, lying, picnicking and playing on the grass every day, can the park sustain this level of daily use?
I mean, nothing is going to be brand new forever. This is standard wear that you would get in any park. A little bit more because we've been overwhelmed. It's a victim of its own success. There was a head count the other day. There were 500 people on the green. So clearly that is something that will have an impact. It'll average out. There are standard management procedures. Occasionally you will have to fence areas off to reseed the grass and allow it to recover. But these are standard things anywhere, and there's nothing that worries us at all.
The full list of Commonwealth Park rules can be found in the Gibraltar Gazette, edition number 4097, and is also available online.